Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today at Publicis Commerce on the I Could Buy That series. We want to keep this concise. Let me remind you of the rules of the games before we get into it. So first, we invite a credible guest. Today, we have a very credible guest, a very dear colleague of mine. Her name is Shirley Johnson. She's a VP of Commerce Experience at Publicis. So now that we know Shirley, what we're going to do is we're going to ask her to open with her thesis, probably something that you haven't heard yet, a new thought, and it's going to require a bit of explaining to better understand. So we're going to ask her to develop that and to build it out, to unpack it with three key data points to back her thesis and hopefully a call to action to our entire industry. So enough from me, more from Shirley. Hi, Shirley. I'd love for you to tell us a bit more about yourself.
Hi, Ali. Thanks for having me on. I'm an experienced strategist, so I love all things that are experience, whether it's a brand experience or a retail experience. I've been in the industry for about 15 years and about 7 years with Publicis. So I get really excited when I think about the customer experience and how brands can meet consumers where they are.
Okay, so we've done the prep call. I know that you're working on something quite revolutionary or evolutionary for our industry. And so what's this big idea that you want our listeners to buy into?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's not new to anyone, especially in the industry, but it is the idea that within physical retail, that if you don't incorporate a digital aspect, then ultimately you're going to lose the consumer.
Okay. Bolt, what makes you think that?
I mean, there's several reasons, right? If you think back pre-pandemic, we were all so accustomed to a digital lifestyle. The way we order a car, the way we order our food, the way we shop, we've become accustomed to those expectations and having convenience, and that's digitally served. Then you sort of mix in the great acceleration, which happened over the pandemic, where everyone was forced to look at their digital presence and really make it more convenient for consumers to reach them, for consumers to buy from them, and for consumers to come back. So every brand was sort of racing to create the best digital experience they could. And as humans and consumers, that stays with us. So out of the pandemic, we are going to want that same experience. And if we can't get it in retail, we're simply going to stay and get it online because it's now available to us. So retail has to shift for in-store, and they have to make that consideration in order to capture that audience and get that foot traffic. Why get off the couch if it's not a different experience or if it's not something unique that's really going to make me want to get in the car and go to a physical location?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I get it. The first is that you want to make sure that what's been gained through COVID remains. You want a reason to get off the couch.
Yeah.
Can you think of any examples of a physical digital meshing that you feel are successful? And this is right before I ask you, which ones need a lot of help. But let's talk about success stories first.
I mean, you have a lot of great success stories. I think Vans is a really good one. They have an experiential store. And a lot of people think, oh, well, digital, there's a QR code, or, you can potentially order in store and have that delivered to your house. That's sort of old school. That's almost pre-pandemic. If you think about it today, the physical digital experience is really going to be truly experiential. They're going to personalize it because they know what you've purchased online, and they can use that when you walk in store if you have your app running. If you look at Home Depot, they have a whole app experience when you walk in the store, and they encourage you to do that. There's literally a sign that says scan your app, and now you're going to experience the app and in-store shopping. You can scan items on the shelf and get reviews. You can understand what their stock looks like, or if you can go to another location and pick something up. Everything is so uber convenient that it makes it almost impossible to sort of tell where the physical starts and where the digital ends. And I think the goal, right? It's just the blur in between. So yeah, I would say Home Depot, Vans, they're doing it extremely well. Vans is adding a little more fun to it. They have an entire skate park in one of their stores. So they're reaching past the digital and really tapping into that emotion. They know their consumers. They know they love their shoes. They love skateboarding. Oh, and by the way, you can still order some shoes while you're there, or you can stop in the retail spot and pick up a pair of shoes on your way out. So I think those are a couple of brands who get it, and they're doing it really, really well.
Who's not getting it and not doing it really, really well?
I hate to say this. I think they're trying, but I'm going to go from experience that happened yesterday. I think Walmart could use some improvement in their in-store experience. I was there to pick up a crate. Won't tell you too much about that for my cats. And I was just frustrated. I couldn't figure out which label belonged to which. They had 5 that looked similar. I would have loved if I could have scanned a tag and understood the differences between them. I literally found myself saying, I should have ordered this online. It was just inconvenient. And a part of it is just sort of us being accustomed to a lifestyle, right? Like we're sort of used to clicking a button, seeing the variations, scrolling down to read the reviews. But I desired that when I was in the store, and it took longer than I expected, and I was slightly frustrated. I got it done, but you would think a big brand like Walmart would be sort of stepping into the future a little bit, further and quicker in terms of, incorporating the online experience, which is great, into the physical store. So I think they could definitely work on that a little bit. Sorry, Walmart.
Yeah, Shirley Johnson calls out the US's biggest retailer and announces herself as a cat lady all at once.
I mean, they're kittens and they're for my daughters. I have to throw that in there. But yeah, I think, as one of the biggest retailers, they should set an example. So I would love to see them sort of embrace it a little bit more.
Yeah. So when you do ask a brand or a retailer to blend the physical and digital, which categories or which focus areas do you suggest they look at as their approach?
Yeah, typically I think the approach is start with what you have. I think a lot of retailers don't know where to start, right? They're like, what do I need to buy? Do I need to revamp my website? Do I need to sort of think about architecture and design in the store? And most of the time you don't, right? Think about the technology that you have, how your data flows. Are you able to bring in personalization to the in-store experience? How do you integrate your current app? How do you use what you know about your customer and what their affinities are to bring those things subtly into the space? Think about things like scannable tags, which are fairly easy. Things like having what others bought. So we love this. Other people bought like this, right? We're so used to that. And you can do that in store. Pinterest is doing something really interesting where you can scan and see what others bought and you see the entire board and it guides you. I think that's something that's rather simple. You don't have to change your architecture. It's literally just sort of putting up a sign and then partnering with a brand like Pinterest to make it happen. So I always encourage brands, look at your internal technology, understand how your measurement works, how your data flows, and then try to incorporate it into your design. Once you start to see that ROI and really start to see that emotional connection with your consumers, and you'll know it, right? They'll talk about it. They'll talk about it digitally. They'll come back. Then you can sort of take bigger steps and really think about spending a little bit more budget to customize things and always start with 1 or 2 locations. Obviously you want to scale and not take on a sort of massive redesign.
Got it. Okay, so I want to make sure I got this right and cover what you said. Yeah. First, your big call out to the industry: blend the best of physical and digital, or lose the sale.
Lose the sale.
And this is on the back of, one, consumers have learned to get easy, efficient, and unique experiences digitally through COVID, and now the physical has to match it, right?
Absolutely.
Second, give me a reason to get off my couch, make the physical attractive versus digital, but thanks to digital, right? So when I go in store, let them know who I am. And lastly, the better the meshing of physical and digital, the fuller the experience will be. And the way to achieve that, and the way that Walmart should do it, is by blending physical and digital thinking, by radically thinking through strategy, design, technology, and we would add measurement. So, I mean, is music to my ears, as I mentioned, and we both agree, is not revolutionary, hopefully evolutionary, if not common sense, definitely expected from a consumer. I'm sure there are doubters, retractors, haters out there. What would they say? What do you think is the counter argument to yours?
Yeah, I think the number one incorrect counter argument is that post-pandemic, everyone will sort of shift back and they won't have the height of expectations that they do now. That is wrong, right? And sometimes, as brands, I ask them, look at yourself as a consumer. Are you willing to shift back? Would you go rent a movie from the store versus streaming it online? You've become accustomed to it, right? And we're going to continue, although technology acceleration may slow down now. What we've come to, that's going to carry through, and that carries through the physical space. So if any brands or retailers are thinking, hey, I just have to wait it out, and once the holidays come around, I'm going to get a ton of foot traffic, you might see a slight increase, but ultimately consumers want that sort of blurred seamless experience, and you have to move that way in order to keep the consumer and make the sale.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to speak. I want to say thank you to you for joining us. And thank you everyone for listening. We hope this got you thinking in a new way. I know that Shirley and her team are working on solutions to back this up, bring it to life, and hopefully improve a lot of retail experiences, including some of the major retailers in the US. So we look forward to hearing your feedback. Drop us an email and join us next time for I Could Buy That.